What's going out there? It's February 8th. I'm Frank Curzio, the Wall Street Unplugged podcast, where I break down headlines and... tell you what's really moving these markets. I feel like I'm saying this all the time with Daniel Creech Day. Feels like it's more than one day a week for some reason. I don't know why, but what's going on, man? How's everything?
Just because there's so much fun, Frank. It's only one day a week. Don't check your calendar. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's good. Another beautiful day here. We actually we have some fun stuff. Actual news going on. Sometimes we're grasping at straws or revising things, but we got some action going on this week, Frank. It's exciting. Where would you like to start?
I know. Earnings season is always cool, but I think it's funny, right? Again, why is this balloon thing getting so much press?
Well, because we're on the verge of World War III, Frank.
But it's floating around in our airspace, letting them float around in our airspace. We're not doing anything about it. I just think it's, I don't know if it's like an overreaction to all of this. I guess depending on what side of the aisle you're on, you got to think differently. I just thought it was a funny situation, just watching this whole thing. I don't know. Maybe it's me, but I think it's nonsense.
Well, it's crazy politics because now personally, and, regardless of Republican, Democrat, I was happy to see him shoot this balloon down, just for the cause of it just seems like a game of chess and knick-knack with world leaders. No doubt we're doing constant things to piss other people off, world leaders around the globe. No doubt they do it to us, whether it be hacking on the internet or through computers, whether it be spying, whether it be in embassies. That's just part of it. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just simply saying that, hey, that's the way the world works. I thought, I lean much more conservative than I do liberal. That's not going to shock anybody that's listened for more than 30 seconds. I was surprised how they were taking, as soon as it was either in Alaska or Montana, which was one of my former home states, why don't they shoot it down right away? Maybe it's transporting all this data back. Does it make me worry? Absolutely not. I do think it's ironic that in the world of great tech, drones, missiles, whatever you want to have it, we have this gigantic 3-size tour bus floating around. This is good. This is like, remember how they survived in the movie Waterworld with Kevin Costner? Mm-hmm. It's essentially a balloon like that floating around. China says it's all about doing the weather. Hey, this is just a big misunderstanding. I don't know.
It's being contrived. Yeah, honestly, the way I thought about it is, I was thinking of when they first told Biden about this and he was sitting down. That's what I was thinking. I was like, imagine someone going up to Biden and be like, there's this big balloon floating around, and he's like, balloon? And it's like, what color is it? Like, I can picture him just being like, it's remote control. It could be a big deal. I could just picture him being like, oh, like nothing, right? I mean, that conversation of first telling him, I'm just trying to think like how his reaction was, kind of similar to what we see in his speeches and everything. But, I was just laughing. Like, I wonder how that conversation went. He's probably like, oh, I'll give it to... Talk to Biden to Hunter about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so crazy when I think about it, because the way I was thinking about this, I really didn't think. I thought this was like a non-story, so people can kill me about it. It's something that I thought was kind of funny. But I thought about that, and then I thought about, this is one of the times I wish Trump was still president, because he's a guy that just would have went in like an Air Force One and drove right through it and said, I did this. I didn't. He never gives credit, right? I'm the only president. I mean, just to see him and his reaction on this. But more importantly, I think it's the bigger picture, right? We're not joking around. I like picking on politicians because they deserve it because they're all assholes. But the bigger picture here is, I find it amazing that every one of our politicians on the take from China. I mean, there's so many documented records. You can catch them no matter what, right? You see it every place. You see it on the Biden laptop. You saw it. It's all there for us to see, all the dealings and stuff like that, right? But again, it's nobody cares. But just to see how we're not allowed to say anything bad about China, right? Compared to Russia. Russia, you blame every single thing on because they're not a big trading partner, whatever. But if you look at China and this type of country where you can't practice a religion that you believe in or your choice, you get arrested for expressing your own opinions, sometimes you disappear, countless reports of torture, rape, forced ingestion of drugs. I mean, crazy, crazy stuff that you hear from members of minority religious groups, state-controlled media, state-controlled population, all this stuff. But when you have everyone on take, when you're paying everyone and they're all making a freaking fortune, it's why we ignore them, right? It's like sports. You can't say anything bad about them. You can't say anything about the Hong Kong process. Why not? Why can't we as Americans have an opinion about that? Why do they control our media where, we can't say thing. We couldn't even call this the China virus or whatever, even though every other, virus is named, right away, right? Google, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, even though those sites are limited or some of them aren't even in China, not allowed to be, right? Because freedom of speech, can't have your own opinions or anything. But even when the control that they have over some of our biggest organizations, right? The World Health Organization. I mean, they praised China for the transparency response to COVID in January, right? This is what really pissed me off. They issued a statement, this is in January, saying that based on China's data, by the way, China did not let, because they didn't let the WHO go into Wuhan, but they said based on their data from China that there were only 44 cases of COVID and there's no evidence of person-to-person transmission. WHO actually published that statement because they listened. China wouldn't let them in there. They wouldn't let them in there. They wouldn't let anyone in there. Don't worry about it. No, but that's actually what they published. So basically saying this, while the virus starts spreading across the planet, killing tens of millions of people, right? And you have this organization, the World Health Organization is your name, right? That fully makes a fortune from China. But I just think it's funny how, it doesn't seem like such a big deal yet. If this was from Russia or whatever, it would have been every single place in the world. And but just this story just came out of nowhere and everyone's talking about it. I'm like, I know you were talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. It's like, for me, I don't know. I just like the funny reactions and stuff like that because it's such a difference of what Biden would do compared to what Trump would do with a situation like this. and it's totally a different response.
Well, we can never get past Trump because there are calls now from his party. People came out and said, hey, this happened during the Trump administration. Of course, he came out and said that didn't happen. Now there's Republicans and people calling for investigations. If it did happen, why didn't anybody get let known? It's a total fiasco. To your point on the World Health Organization wording, remember, that's what they do. They call things, whether it be the Inflation Act or how about the Federal Reserve, to be a quote-unquote independent. Yeah. That's the best naming of all. Hey, speaking of Federal Reserve.
Well, before we get to the Federal Reserve, I want to stay in this subject, right, even though it's going to segue. Because when do you think that there's going to be a time when everyone just says, fuck you to our politicians, every one of them? Like, I mean, we all know, right? We all see it of, their job in a democracy is to represent your constituents, which none of them do. They all have their own agendas. They don't represent the people who hire them, nothing, right? You can't even go in there. Even now, it's so bad that if you come in as an independent and, you're not as right or you're not as left, but you're in the party, it forces you. If you want to get any support at all, get reelected, have a job, have any power at all, you better support your party and vote on party lines every single time or you're done, right? If not, if you push back, then they're going to give you a whole bunch of stuff. But when does it come to a point with all the information which is readily available, where we're able to see YouTube channels of people talking at both sides of the mouth, supporting things, not supporting things, Supreme Courts, that, add extra seats is a joke. And now, the Democrats are like, oh, you have to add more seats, because there's more conservatives on. It's just the back and forth that you see and all the bullshit and the lies and shit like this. Is there ever going to be a point where America is just like enough? Because these are the people who are really destroying our cultures, right? These are the people who want this, right? I mean, they want us to fight. They want to. Do you ever see that? Like people just saying, all right, enough is enough with these fucking assholes. And I mean, we vote for them, but yet why do we keep voting guys like, Chuck Schumer in all the time? Why do we keep voting guys, across the board, like the Republican who just got voted in, who lied about his resume? Holy shit. How is he still in office? I mean, back in the day, you used to take that guy out and beat the shit out of him. Right now, you can, I mean, how is he still, he's like, oh, I'm not stepping down. When does it come to a point where Americans are just like, we're done with this shit and what could they do about it? Because it's getting progressively worse, and the fact that we have access to real-time information, the half a second when it's released and seeing all this shit, I see this among a lot of people where they just fed up. I think they stopped watching a lot of these political, channels that are just so left, so right, and so far out there that it's like, listen, I'm done with this, because every time I watch this shit, I'm pissed at everyone and I hate everyone. And most people aren't like that. Most people like each other. Most people help each other. They don't care what political party they're from, right? But once you throw politics in it, there's like this argument, this hate, this anger. It's kind of like road rage. I don't know. For right now, it seems like it's very close to blowing up. I don't know what's going to happen when it does. I
agree with that. To answer your question, yes, I do think there will be a point. I wish I knew the exact when, because we could make billions off of the trades and things. From 10,000 feet, though, big changes in societies happen when, unfortunately, things hit the fan. And you need to have a big fear of either a war, in my opinion. And I'm not saying this is gospel and I'm right. I'm simply saying that you need some kind of event. You need a nervousness about your currency. You need somebody to step in and save the day. You need a big boogeyman to cause this. And real quickly here, the exciting thing is, as bad as things are, everything could be fixed overnight. Mm-hmm. I mean, we are literally a snap your fingers, and that sounds like La La Land or Once Upon a Time stuff. That is not true. If you want to fix 85 to 90% of all politic scandals, get term limits in. And you're finally starting to see a little bit of people go on TV and start talking about term limits. Not that has a snowball's chance and where anytime soon. But my point is that you can point to everything about how chaotic it is and how partisan things are and extreme things are. And that's all true. My point is just, before you get too crazy or too upset or let it get to the point where it ruins your day, no, this can be fixed. It will be fixed at some point. Thank goodness we still are the world superpower when it comes to a military force, which is why you should have exposure to Lockheed Martin and or ITA, the defense ETF, basically, that holds a basket of those world peacekeeping do-gooders that they like to present themselves as. But yes, it could be fixed. It will get fixed at some point. I'm not putting this argument or these words in your mouth, but don't get to the perma-bear point of view where you're just upset and you don't, we've seen the best, we're past peak prosperity and stuff. That's all BS. Don't bet against capitalism until it changes, and it's under attack. It always has been, but it's not changed yet, so don't worry about that. I can't believe
I just heard you say something optimistic about politics.
I'm telling you, it's easy.
Holy cow, things are crazy.
Frank, that's why I have confidence in stuff like this, because it's easy to point to what's wrong and how to fix it.
I thought I'd never see the day.
Easy.
All right, let's get into some of the Fed stuff. The Fed, Powell was talking yesterday, and he was talking about more details about what he said, because everyone thought, I felt like he was just he should have came out with like this top hat and dancing, and he was like so happy, right, during that the Fed meeting from last week. But he just kind of explained further what was going on, and the word disinflation is such a powerful word, powerful word that I really think that's what really was a big change, right? Which basically disinflation means that inflation is coming down, which we all know it's coming down in some areas. But he was very adamant with this interview that was yesterday that look, we're not done. Like, we're not close to done. Like, we can go a lot higher than this. It makes me think we're going to go to 5.5%, 6% very easily, because we are seeing a lot of indicators start turning around and going higher, right? Not all of them. We're seeing, I name them all the time. I'm not about to name them, but there's a lot of things out there that you're seeing that they're reversing right now, and you're seeing more inflation. The market's doing better. And they keep harping on this unemployment rate, which is so low, and it's so difficult to see these numbers when you're seeing tens of thousands of layoffs almost announced on a daily basis right now, and the restructuring plans, what everyone's doing. Because now Meta has the blueprint, right? Yep. Meta's results were bad, right? They're like, all right, we added more users or whatever, but the results were bad. It didn't matter. They said we're cutting billions in costs, and now everyone says, holy shit, their stock went up 25%. And you're seeing even more companies that really weren't on a docket to kind of like cut their costs are cutting costs, saying, okay, this is what Wall Street wants to see. And that's what they do. They love providing Wall Street what they want to see, because that drives the stock price. Just like Disney. I don't give a shit if they're not paying for subscribe. It doesn't matter. People just want to see a subscriber growth. Let's get to 100 million. Let's get to 150 million. We'll beat Netflix. Who cares if they're paying $1? And they were right. And they drove the share to $190 before they realized, holy shit, this company's going to lose money for the next 10 years. But now they're seeing like, okay, this is the playbook. Look what Meta did. And the reaction to stock price, I think it's going to result in more layoffs. But I'd love to understand it a little bit more and dig in. I've dug into economics really, really deep. Just to understand the job report, because it seems like a transfer of jobs from jobs that are, college, high-paying technology jobs that are getting lost to maybe services jobs. And, I don't know about if that includes like the hourly wage and wages, which they include. But you really have to look at the details of how they look at this data and how it's calculated. Because if you're telling me that the job market is strong right now, I think you're crazy. I mean, you may say that where you have a restaurant or something like that, but the job market being strong right now, the layoffs that you're seeing across so many different industries, you can't tell me that it's strong right now. I don't see it. I don't feel like, if you leave your job, you're going to have 3 or 4 different offers and you can go wherever you want. It's not that kind of job market, but yet that's what you think by looking at the data. But the common sense or your feeling about it, sentiment wise, it doesn't feel that way. And that's a big deal, because you're looking at a data point that you continue to base your entire policy on, which is jobs. As long as jobs are strong, we're going higher and higher. Jobs are strong. I have no idea why the bull case is suggesting that, and the Fed hasn't said this, and they've done everything that they said they were going to do for the past year. Everything they said they were going to do to a T that they've done. And they're like, we're not stopping. We're going to continue. And there's this whole sentiment out there that they're going to stop very, very soon. Very soon, maybe next quarter, or maybe this was the last one, which I don't see. And there's also sentiment out there they're going to start lowering at the end of this year, which I think is absolutely insane to think that when you have some inflation indicators, lumber, copper, some commodities, gasoline prices, food prices, they're starting to move back up again, right? So I don't see this, but it was a weird reaction to the market. It was like it was flat, up 2% with the NASDAQ. Then it came all the way back down and mix and stuff like that. But just the back and forth just shows the confusion. But man, there's a lot of optimism priced into this market considering how fast and how far earnings are coming down right now for companies. And you saw that really a ton during this earnings season so far.
Yes. So I watched most of this Q&A with Powell yesterday at the economic, whatever it was in Washington, D.C. And personally, I'm going to flag this, Frank, because I want to look back on this day, or that day, February 7th. Because the tone, first of all, did you read the transcript or watch it or see highlights? Did you see the back and forth or the mannerisms or the tone?
A little bit, yeah. It seemed like it was very happy-go-lucky and fun and laughing, yeah.
And I admit, I'm gonna be a little old manish here. I thought that was ridiculous. We are talking about something extremely serious, the most powerful financial institution in the globe, as I like to say, the combination of Willy Wonka and the Wizard of Oz. And they're out there on stage joking about, hey, would you have done the same thing? You know, basically the market wants to hear and they don't believe you. And if you knew this strong jobs number ahead of your time, which they point out, he said disinflation 11 times in the Q&A or the the post FOMC meeting. And it was just this very lackadaisical, the audience at this Q&A yesterday was laughing every time. I mean, he was asking, what do you do to de-stress? Oh, I play music. I play the guitar. I ride my bike. And they're kicking it back and forth. Listen, I get that there's some natural banter back and forth or easygoing thing. I just really have to admit, this made me want to pull my hair out. These guys aren't taking anything serious. It just shows you they don't take something serious. And the fact that the market was rallying higher in spite of the fact that the Fed last at the meeting and then yesterday during his Q&A said, we are going to continue hiking rates. We are going to keep rates higher for longer than the market anticipates. And the market was rallying. Then it gave back a little bit, and then it was but my point is that this is one of those special times where in a month, 2 months, 3 months, I can't wait to look back on this day, and maybe I could be totally wrong. I just think the lackadaisical humor built into this bear market rally, it's just another piece of data, the straw that broke the camel's back. It's just another data point to put on the teeter-totter that I believe is so completely out of balance. And that's okay. Things can stay out of balance for a long time. When you pay attention to goofiness and goofballs like this enough, when you see things that stand out like that, it makes me pay closer attention. And I just think that the lackadaisical, he didn't say anything of any merit. He just reiterates himself. And it was just a waste of time, to be honest. And it's sad that it has such a huge impact on the financial markets around the globe.
It does. I mean, one of the things that he says, if we continue to get, I'm quoting Powell, if we continue to get, for example, strong labor market reports or higher inflation reports, it will be the case that we have to do more and raise rates more than is priced in. I think that's when the market did come down a little bit and, came back just back and forth and stuff like that. But it's everyone trying to get ahead, right, of the Fed. But it's almost like I feel like if the Fed came out and said, okay, we're going to start lowering rates, I think this market would probably go down like 10%. I really do. I think it's just going to be the opposite where, okay, if they're lowering now, and it's no coincidence that every time they actually officially started to lower rates, that's when the market has crashed the most, right? You see that almost every single time when they reverse that tightening cycle and start easing, right at the beginning of that, that's when the market falls the most, right? Because you're trying to stimulate the market actually, right? So It makes sense if you think about it. They're not trying to stimulate the market at all. So why would you lower rates if you think about it? So,
and quickly, I want to rant real quick because they haven't fixed anything. They haven't solved inflation. Yes, inflation has come down from a peak, thank goodness. Okay, so let's not clap and give credit for doing one's job too much. This is like football players, making a tackle. That's great. That's why we pay you millions of dollars. Way to go. Or basketball players. I'm not picking on one sport or the other. That's an important key. They haven't fixed anything, and we're still not out of the craziness. Frank, Bed Bath & Beyond was up 100% one day earlier this week. So the meme stock rally, while it's not as robust and high in numbers as it was during the peak craziness, that's not even funneled through the markets. Okay, we're not even past. Blue Horseshoe likes Anacott Steel for all you wonderful Wall Street fund people
Do you know,
out there.
like, and
they raised,
happened?
hell yeah, I know what happened. They took
listen,
advantage, and they should have. They did the exact right thing from a strictly capitalist standpoint, because this is real, people. This isn't a game.
I got in close with the Wall Street Bets crowd through a gentleman named Chris Berrios, who runs the Facebook part of that. He's a great guy. I've been to a lot of conferences with him. Just a really, really cool young person. Great. And these kids are real investors, right? And they support these things. And of course, they were able to almost put a hedge fund out of business and, multi-billion-dollar hedge fund. And I get it. But it's funny how Wall Street continues. And I don't know why, when you're looking at the AMCs as well, AMC did the same thing. And you're looking at Bed Bath & Beyond, you have a huge support system, right? With the Wall Street Bets crowd and a lot of these meme investors that support these stocks. And it's so funny to see how AMC and Bed Bath & Beyond always, if you have kids in a car, close your ears, love fucking the best people that love their companies the most, right? These are the people that you're screwing the most. When it goes all the way up and you do like that, you raise money right in their face,
yep,
and you dilute the shit. They've been doing that the whole entire time, right? Because their business models are both broken. They don't work, right? So the business models are broken. So what do? Whenever the stock goes high, whenever you could pump it, whatever you could create, and the preferred with AMC and the apes and stuff like that and all this shit, everything that they do is for themselves. Wall Street will take everything from you. And it sucks that they have to learn this lesson, because these people are really big supporters. All right. This is more than just, I want to make money in short covering. A lot of these people, like, I'm never selling AMC. I'm never selling Bitcoin. I'm never going to sell Bed Bath, like a lot, GameStop. Like, that's how they're investing. And it's funny how these companies constantly use those people, their best investors, and just give it to them right up the what and say, well, money's first, Wall Street's first, and we got to make sure. So just the Bed Bath & Beyond situation is hilarious to me. So, companies like that, they go bankrupt. I hope they do, because the management teams are such shit, right? That the CEOs make an absolute fortune. The shareholders are making shit and get wrecked. They make money no matter what. It's the way the Wall Street system is, and there's nothing you can do about it. But there actually is something you can do about it. I mean, there's ways to really screw these people.
Hey, just like term limits, you could fix that easily too. If the SEC actually enforced certain things and did things, it would be
and
easy.
That's the power of Dow. That's the power. If you don't know what Dow is, look it up. I mean, it's just like it's the power of voting. The community votes. It's more than you think you get a vote with shareholders. You really don't. Because most of the ownership, unless you're a massive large cap company, has been around for 40 years, but a lot of that's controlled. Just like BlackRock controls all the voting rights for a lot of these freaking companies because they're the largest shareholder in these companies. That's why ESG, they do whatever. They push agendas that have nothing to do with, why you're buying these stock in the first place, why you're part of BlackRock, right? Because you want to invest in their funds and make great returns, right? But they have their own agenda. But just to see this, and how you're constantly getting screwed, and investors are constantly getting screwed, just like what they did in SPACs, which provides an easy way for the investors to get out a lot quicker, right? And throw it right in your face. So we got to hype this shit up as much as we can. Hype ups. Do you know that there has been no lawsuits or anything with SPACs? Have you seen any lawsuits with SPACs? All the bullshit, all the warrants, that they didn't have to disclose, all this stuff, all the people getting $1, $2, $3 are able to sell the shit out of this thing. They buried everybody. Everybody got wrecked. Who owned the SPAC? I don't even know if anyone who's made money in SPAC.
I mean, I'm sure there are, but to your point, nothing like you should see it across
nothing
major
that
headlines.
Doesn't start that these guys aren't launching something else, right? And it's amazing how that trend went on. How all the billionaires and all those assholes have jumped on the bandwagon trying to have launch their own, right? Free money, you give it away. All right, I'm going to take it. It's like the government. It's like Al Gore. Hey, let's create this whole freaking climate change. We're all going to die in a couple of years, but the government's going to fund me, and I'm going to increase my wealth from $2 million to $400 million. Good for you. Listen, you played the system right, but just it's nice to know the system up front, because when you don't, you get your ass kicked, and a lot of people got their ass kicked like supporting these stocks, which is sad. You can say, well, do your own homework or whatever. That's fine. You're right. You're right. But the bottom line is, they're getting screwed on purpose by the people, not just by the investors and short sellers or whatever. I'm saying they're getting screwed by the actual company that they're supporting, that they're choosing to say, okay, we're going to back you and we're going to buy. And they're like, F you, with your finger right in their face saying, we don't really care if you support us or not. This is what we're going to do to survive. The CEO will leave. He'll leave with a freaking nice parachute and $25 million package. He's CEO of another company a week later. It's the way it is. It's just the way it is. Funds blow up. They start new funds, $1 billion funds. Yeah. A week later, it's fucking.
That's
it's
the
incredible.
best.
It's incredible. It's incredible. It's incredible. It really is. It really is.
Hey, that rabbit trail was my fault, but it was funny because Monday, I think it was Monday, the stock was up call it 100%.
100%.
Then Tuesday it was down 45, 47. I don't know where it exactly. Yeah, but how funny. Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, hey, whatever.
Whatever it is. So one of the things, too, I want to get to is Ron Barron, who I'm always a big fan of.
Speaking of funds and good performance.
I mean, that guy's got a fantastic performance. And I don't know if have you ever gone to his investment conference?
I have not.
So this thing is awesome. So there's a 29th annual, which they did this year. And the last 2 years, I think, because of COVID, they didn't have it. So he holds us at the Lincoln Center every year, and I went 2 years in a row when I was working at street.com. And anyone who owns like any fund or whatever, I believe, just a couple of shares on the fund or whatever, you can go to this thing. And it's amazing. It's an amazing event. A ton of people attend, a ton of famous people attend, famous investors and stuff like that. But this guy throws a show that's unbelievable. And he has live entertainment. He'll have amazing guests. He has lunchtime. After lunch, he'll go over like the fund managers speak, and it's actually entertaining. And then at lunchtime, I think it's like a 2-hour break or something, and you can go to 3 or 4 different events, and he'll have like Broadway shows, and he'll have all these performers. And then they'll come back, and at the end of it, they give you food and everything. At the end of it, they have a surprise performer. It's always someone big, and I'm talking about so Paul McCartney, Sting, John Bon Jovi, Rod Stewart, Jerry Seinfeld, Bette Midler, and they'll perform, right? And it's a surprise. This year was Bruno Mars. I mean, Bruno Mars, that's easily a $2 million expense. But the party that this guy throws is insane, and people love going there. But just his outlook on investing, I love. You mentioned it. I'll let you go into it a little bit more. But just, he doesn't care about what's going on in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And just to add to that, if you look at his performance in Tesla and how much shit he got being an early investor, it's incredible. But, he was on Squawk Box, yesterday morning. It was really cool. And I thought it was great when he was talking about Tesla and everything else. I know you were impressed, right?
Yeah, I caught the interview, and my big takeaway, and I'm not taking a shot here. He's brilliant. I believe it was on, what's the early CNBC with
Squawk.
Becky Quick. Yeah. And they were asking him good questions. They were trying to, anytime you'd want to get a specific answer or kind of people want to know what to do right now or, hey, what are you thinking right now? And honestly, Frank, he made me laugh out loud because if it wasn't the very first thing, it was near the very beginning of the interview. And he explained how he exercises in the morning for an hour and he watches their program. And he said very nonchalant, very kind. This proves one of my theories in life that you can say anything with a smile. He said, yeah, I watch you guys every morning. It really doesn't affect or I don't do anything with the information as far as investing, but I am entertained by you, and it's great while I'm exercising. And his point was, hey, you guys do a good job of showing what short-term moves in markets or stocks, what have you, earnings, major news. Every time they try to nail him down to say, hey, what do you think about timing the market? And I'm paraphrasing some of their questions. Or, hey, what do you think about inflation right now? Is that affecting any of your decisions right now? And he stuck to his guns, and Frank, it's easy when you're a billionaire, right? Because you're already a billionaire. But the big takeaway that I have from a younger and a lot to learn investor analyst is he said, hey, listen, I assume inflation's 4 to 5% every year. And I'm going to double my money 6 to 7 years because I'm buying quality companies that have an advantage over other companies in their sectors. So think Warren Buffett's, the way he says it is, I want companies with moats around them. Mm-hmm. Hard people to come in as competition and hurt your margins. Okay, that's great. Then he says, I want to invest in people. And he goes into the Elon Musk thing. And I believe, Frank, I don't know if you caught it, but I think he said that they have invested about $400 million in Tesla and their earnings are over $5 billion. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's pretty impressive, even though you're a long time in the stock. My big takeaway was, try to ignore the short term, even though that's incredibly difficult. Especially just trust the billionaires, trust Buffett, Icahn, Ron Barron, trust those guys. If you need the money in 4 months from right now, I'm sorry to say this as an employee of Curzio Research, then don't invest right now because your risk reward is not in your favor and your emotions are going to get the best of you and you're going to go crazy. So throw out the short term, but focus on people and focus on great quality companies. And now no better time because fundamentals actually matter. He said the same thing for the last 10 years, but yet this interview had more merit because now you can actually see the results from fundamentals and stuff. He's always had the Teslas and high flyers and that kind of stuff, but he's also great. I've not researched Hyatt hotels, but he made an interesting comment how he's trading at a cheaper valuation.
Hyatt or Hilton?
I think he said Hyatt.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
And then he said Figs at a apparel manufacturer.
Yep.
And he was just pointing to these. So if you're an investor, go look at some of those. Go try to think about, hey, what is he seeing long term? switching billionaires real quick, this thing is with Xerox has perplexed me for a long time. Carl Icahn owns a huge position, massive position in Xerox. And for the life of me, I have no Florida idea why, Frank, other than maybe he just likes to, hey, it's going to generate $400 million in free cash flow and they're going to pay dividends. But why you have such a huge percentage of that, I'd like to know. My point is that keep looking, but Barron's advice on focusing on quality companies and people, coming from him will be great for more ears other than coming from a guy like me. And B, it's great timing because, as you've said, fundamentals actually matter now. And I think that's a huge deal going forward. And people will, boring is going to make great returns going forward. And that's good for the individual investor, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that would happen before this year, but no, because fundamentals really don't matter. If you see some of these stocks and how much they've gone up, and again, the most risky stocks that have gone up incredibly.
Yes, but fundamental stocks are going up as well. Yeah. Not as much, but yes, they're going up.
But you have to, Ron Barron's 5-year total return, 26% annualized basis, 10-year return, 20%. I mean, that's incredible. He said that in 2017, he was getting a lot of shit for backing Elon Musk. Because I really like him. I think he works really hard. He's trying to change the world. He's trying to do things he's never done before. He's a young man, incredibly successful, and he drives himself to extremes. But, I mean, he saw that at a very young age. And he knew his personality was crazy, and then he got investigated by the SEC or whatever, and he said that was a good thing to calm him down a little. But, time and time again, I've seen him go on CNBC over the years. This is 17, 18, when people are saying it was a fraud, it's garbage, what I'm talking about. And he just said this is going to be my biggest investment ever. And it is. It accounts for 30% of his portfolio weighting in the Barron's fund. You can say, well, it's up 80% year to date, still down 35% for the year, for the 12 months.
Yeah.
But I love when he said, this is the safest car in the world.
Yeah.
I actually saw that when he said he believes that, it's the safest car in the world. And he said that someone tried to commit suicide, drove 250 feet off a cliff. And I actually saw it because I just, I looked at it and he said, 70 miles per hour. And they lived. He goes, well, if you're going to kill yourself, you use a Bentley to commit suicide or something. and you mentioned that. You have to hear that line. And it was funny because when I saw the replay of it, I noticed that, everyone was very quiet, not laughing. I would have been hysterical because I just, when the fact that he said that, so nonchalant, if you're going to commit suicide, do it in this car.
You think,
I love humor like that. I'm sorry.
I do too. You think really that's because he's a billionaire, because he's 79 or both? Because you can say that you are.
To say he's a billionaire, it's just, it doesn't even tell you how rich the guy is, because I think it was 2014, he bought a 40-acre, or 2016, something like that, 40-acre Hampton house for $130 million. I'm sorry, that was in 2007. I think that was the most expensive purchase for a house at the time.
Good timing on housing.
I mean, it's a good, I guess. I mean, what's that house going for now? I mean,
No, I mean, that was right before the crash, though. Short term, it looked terrible, I bet.
Well, depends on what time in 2007, but yeah, that thing probably went down like 30% right away. But, which he didn't care. But I like Barron a lot. I think he's just straight shooter, really cool. And going to that point really quick where you invest in people, it's for 30 years, I've been very fortunate, Daniel, to be around great people like my dad, who's a great investor. Kramer taught me everything about growth over like the 5-year period I was in. I even learned a little bit from Porter and stuff in terms of writing and marketing and stuff like that. But being around great investors and learning from them and listening to how they became successful helped me tremendously. Being in the room, not reading their freaking books for some reason. I don't know. I don't get pleasure in reading their books compared to talking to them, which I've been fortunate to be in some of these circles. Rick Rule is a guy who used to say that to me all the time. And he used to say, invest in people, especially in the mining industry. And I did. I invested in people. But I could tell you, a lot of times people say that's the most important thing. It's not the most important thing. And I've learned that the hard way, because the most important thing is understanding the market conditions, the markets, right? And sometimes that's hard to do. And I feel like I have an edge there, just, doing it for such a long time in terms of, when to really put your foot in the gas and when to, hit the brakes a little bit. But you can invest in the greatest guy in the world with the greatest business model. But if that sector's going down, you're still going to get your ass handed to you. I mean, and gold mining, that's a great example of that, because they are great people that I've met personally. I invest behind. I did okay in some of these investments, some of them I didn't. But when the whole industry comes down, it doesn't matter who you invest in. It doesn't. I mean, maybe instead of something going down 80%, goes down 60%. Look at crypto. There's great crypto people, great crypto projects. Some of those went down 75, 80%, just as much as the altcoins, right? And you can say, well, I invested in a good person. So you have to be aware of your surroundings too, because you can invest in good people, but if you're investing in a pure growth stock, that's their business model is based purely on growth, that they're going to lose money over the next 5 years, you better be careful investing in that company in this type of environment where interest rates higher, much, much higher, right? When you're going to see a slower growth environment, where you're seeing it now, earnings have come down to the point where they were expecting 4, 5, 6% growth at one time. This is September. They're expecting 6% growth for this quarter. Right now, the quarter, and about 65, 70% of the companies reported, right now, this quarter, you're going to show negative 5.3% growth. That's what we projected. Yeah. 70% of companies reported. That's how different in 5 months. And from 1 month, it's more than a 2% difference, which is massive. That's how much the estimates have come down. So if you see all these guys saying, hey, we beat estimates, be careful, because those estimates have been revised pretty much by like 10% lower heading into this earnings. And it's easy to beat that number, right? But you have to be careful and understand the market conditions that you're in, where, growth is great with 0% interest rates. You have a Fed that's there. They're flooding the market with money. But there's a lot of variables, and you have to be willing to change. There's no one style that works. If there was one style that worked, everyone would use it. I know, because I know 50 styles, and I try to use different styles. You have to be willing to adapt to current market conditions. That's what made me, which made me extremely wealthy. I don't want to say that sounds bad, but that's accounted for the most part of my wealth, is the investment portion, and being able to notice that, where, okay, when to buy, when to sell, when to get aggressive, when to put on the brakes. And right now, listen, the market's doing great. You have to have some kind of protection. Buy puts, be smart. Okay, I could be wrong, and maybe the market continues to go higher, but be smart, because once you lose your money, it's gone. All right, and if it doesn't work out and you lose money in your puts, that's fine, because the rest of your portfolio is going to be doing great. But you have to have some kind of insurance in your portfolio, because I've never seen it in the course of history where you have a market that screams higher and earnings are plummeting, going down tremendously. That's a recipe for disaster. Okay, it's always been a recipe for disaster, just a matter of the timing. So be careful. Maybe it doesn't happen for a year. Maybe it happens 6 months. Maybe it happens 3 months. But you need to protect yourself, because that's what's going on right now. You're seeing earnings absolutely crash. 10 of the 11 sectors have seen their earnings lowered just from January.
Yeah.
Just from January 1st till now. We're talking about, a month ahead. 10 out of the 11 sectors. Only utilities is positive. And when I see that and earnings crashing and coming down, and you're seeing bad earnings reports and markets going high and stocks going higher, be careful, because we're at a super, super expensive valuation, considering interest rates are not done going higher yet, at least from the Fed's point of view. So be safe. But anyway, Barron, big fan, and I definitely suggest buying a little bit of one of his funds, because you'll get access to the Lincoln Center every single year they have. And man, that thing is, seriously, it is a lot of fun. You're going to see, I saw Gabelli there. I saw Leighton Gazzarelli there. You see, so many big shots there. It was a lot of fun when you attend. It's a really, really cool conference. Everyone's hanging out and talking, and it's good. The presentations are very, very good too, because they always have pretty cool stocks, and they have really good stuff. So
very good.
Man, covered a lot as usual, right?
Another good Wednesday in the books.
I'm sure we'll get some emails in the first half of that section.
Probably.
What do you think? The magical balloon. Oh my God. That everyone's going to be talking about probably a week from now. But major, major story. Okay, guys, that's it for me. Any questions, comments, for email at frankcurzioresearch.com. Daniel, email address?
Daniel at curzioresearch.com.
All right, guys, that's it for me. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.